Welcome to the Ambitious Coach Lab, powered by 90. I'm your host, Dr. Cam Lawson. Each week, we explore the real tactics, tough conversations, and breakthrough moments that drive coaching success. Let's jump into today's episode. We have got Forrest Derr with us, the Fractionator. I have been so excited about this interview. I actually was just on a podcast the other day and we were talking, you came up and we were talking about your tattoo. That is how infamous it is. So I am very excited. But Forrest is a fractional integrator, COO, and has a really cool story. We got to know each other during my time at 90 and launched into the fractional space. I remember we talked very early when you were looking at doing that. And then lo and behold, like 5, 6 months later, you were full. It was like, what in the world? So I wanted to sit down with Forrest and just kind of talk through that journey. But welcome to the show, man. Excited to have you.
Man, I appreciate the invite. I've been looking forward to this all week.
Dude, it's been fun. I'm glad we were able to do it. So, well, as we kick off, I mean, share a little bit of your journey. I mean, kind of launching into the fraction. I mean, whatever you want to share, I would love to kind of understand your entrepreneurial journey.
Yeah, I tell everybody I'm a reluctant entrepreneur, which means I didn't really want to do this, but I did end up doing it anyway. So I started in EOS in the EOS space back in 2019. Our visionary read traction and threw it at me across the table and said, "Hey, figure this out. We're going to do this." And so once I read it, it clicked. It was like, "Oh my gosh, where has this been all my life?" And so we tried to self implement for 30 days, gave up. We hired an implementer. We tried to do it on spreadsheets, gave up, implemented 90. And so we were on track right off the gate to do it right and do it the fundamental way to get implemented with EOS. And so we had an implementer for 4 years. And during that time, I was the integrator. I was the integrator for 5 years at the company until I left. And during that time, I had an introduction to another fractional integrator named Eric Quinn, and he shared with me what he was doing as a fractional integrator, and it just blew my mind. And after that conversation, I said, when I grow up, I want to be a fractional integrator, and put it on my personal VTO, which I have a personal VTO, and laid it out and said, in 5 years, I'm going to be a fractional integrator. And fast forward a month, actually probably about a year, came across an opportunity to go work for another visionary, and that visionary had multiple businesses. He had a landscaping business, he had a CrossFit business, and a jujitsu business. And my pitch was, let me be your integrator for all your businesses. And the landscape business was the one paying the bills. Pay me W-2 out of that one, and let me also help you with the other two businesses as a fractional integrator, and did that for about 15 months and then decided to jump out on my own and start this fractional business.
Man, that's so cool. I didn't even know some of that. That's awesome. Yeah, that's quite the spread. Like jujitsu, CrossFit, and landscaping. Like ultra
Yeah.
fit individual, I would assume.
Well, he was they were hobby businesses, and
Yep.
so he had a CrossFit gym in one park area of the parking lot in the complex, and then a jujitsu gym. And literally, he'd wake up and go to CrossFit at 5 o'clock in the morning, and he'd do jujitsu at lunch and landscaping in between. And
Why
but if you
not?
ask him, he'll tell you you can make hundreds of dollars a year in a CrossFit business.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's no doubt there.
But it,
Well,
it was a good experience. I got to be. I tell people I got to play fractional before
mm,
I got had to go out on my own. So I got to act as a fractional integrator without having to go out on my own yet.
yeah, that's actually a really unique part of it. I mean, when you were kind of ready to branch out on your own, jump out the nest, if you will,
Yeah.
like when you were building, I love that you had a personal VTO because I think that's one of those things that is one of the competencies that we talk a lot about on here is vision, right? You
Mhm.
have to be clear on your why of what you're doing. You've got to understand the problem that you're going after. And so, can you kind of talk about how you identified and kind of built your offering around your vision of what you wanted to do, but going after, okay, hey, I'm launching this. What problem am I solving or seeing in the market that I can address?
Yeah. Great question. And I would recommend to anybody that's a coach, you got to have your own VTO. You got to build out and have a 5 year plan for a number of reasons. But I'll tell you, one of the best reasons was it gave my wife the comfort in me leaving my job. She was not worried about it. She knew I had already built a plan. We had talked about it. We had conversed about it. We had a strategy. And so for her to not have anxiety about me leaving a full time job, having that VTO front and center made that transition easier. But what I realized, and talking about, I know we were talking about energy earlier. gosh, 4 years ago, I had started, these chapters of local, EOS businesses, businesses running on EOS, and I totally did not do it. I wish I was smart enough to say I did it as a grand plan to build a fractional business, but what I did was I wanted to get local people together that spoke my language. I would go to the EOS conference every year, and then I'd come back, and I couldn't find anybody that spoke my language. And so started throwing it out there on social media, and one person showed up to the first meeting, and then we repositioned it again, and then I had 11 people show up. And the value of that was I was getting in front of people every month, talking about and sharing with each other how to get better at EOS. Not doing a lot of teaching, it was more of just facilitating the conversation. People were teaching each other, but I was in the front of the room every month talking to these people. And through that process, I became the subject matter expert
Mm.
for being an EOS integrator in this area. And so when I raised my flag and said, "Hey, I'm going to do this fractional business," in 10 days, I had 3 contracts. It was that quickly, and it was because of the foundation of building that network.
Mm. Oh, that is such a cool story. Or I get chills every time I hear that because that is just wild.
Mm,
But it also shows the power of community related stuff. I
correct.
mean, that I have said this till I'm blue in the face. Everyone's talking AI right now and all these
Yep.
things, right? And I think what that is actually doing is pushing people to want to connect with other like
Mhm.
minded humans
Yeah.
because we're losing that a little bit. And, I'm a nerd on like social media and like,
Yeah.
the impact that it's having on society and all those kinds of things. But there's a level of we are so big on wanting to connect with other humans. We're communal creatures. And so I
Yeah.
think when you can position yourself as that and lead with that, the natural byproduct is you start to learn and build relationships with people that you start to know, like, and trust, and then want to work with in some form of capacity. So I think that's such a cool, and I mean, 10 days has got to be a record. That's insane.
Yeah, most people that I've talked to, they're like, "How did you do that?" And I'm like, "I'd already built the pipeline." I mean, I'd already had the
Man.
people in front of there. But it's interesting you brought up AI because I wanted to share this too. Energy, that's going across the country now. I think we're up to 72 chapters as of this recording, is last I
Hey,
heard.
75. We had our L10 this morning, so yeah, we're
75. So we're up to 75
that
chapters.
crazy?
In this community where I live, there's another guy that is really good at AI. He started Lower Alabama AI meetups. He is doing the same thing off the same model of energy, but using AI as the topic. There's another guy that's doing marketing for humans,
Hmm.
and he's doing local meetups. So I agree with you that I think there is a yearning for
Yes,
connection again,
yes.
personal, one-on-one group connection rather than over a Zoom call. And so I
Mm.
think we've just kind of hit this inflection point where this is just continue to take off.
Yes, 100%. And I mean, it's what's cool about it is it leans into both the help first mindset of
Mhm.
let's meet people where they're at and we're just going to lead with help, right?
Yep.
And it also factors into this abundance mindset, right?
Yep.
Like there's plenty of stuff to go around. Cause I was going to ask you, like,
Yeah.
not that the fractional integrator space is crowded, right?
Right.
But like there are a lot out there. So, I mean, what, like, do you think from a differentiation standpoint, because I kind of want to lean on that from specifically like a coach or an integrator
Yeah.
thinking about how do I differentiate? Like there's a lot of US implementers, a lot of fractional integrators. Like, how do you think about how you differentiate
Mhm.
yourself? And I mean, does energy play into that in some
Mhm.
form or fashion?
Energy absolutely plays into it, but it's really more the help first and abundance mindset. It's
Yeah.
the coffee conversations. I mean, I over the years that I've been doing this, there's plenty of people that I've had coffee with and helped them solve a problem just over a cup of coffee. A lot of times I bought the cup of coffee, they didn't even buy it. So I mean, I paid for coffee and help for free. But those people, when they need you, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, guess who they're gonna call first? They're gonna call you if you help them. So that help first mindset, I do it with no anticipation of ever getting a return call, but what turns around, it comes back. It comes back tenfold. And not only that, the people that you help for free refer you to people that end up being paid clients. That's another thing that has been the secret sauce is that people go, how do you get your business? I mean, you do paid ads? I'm like, I don't pay for nothing for ads. It's more about referrals. I mean,
Yeah.
I help people that then want to reach back out to me when they need help, but then they go tell their friends that,
Yeah.
hey, this guy over here, he can help you. So,
Hmm. Yeah, that's so good. And then when you go in and like what is your dealing with all right, what problem, you're probably talking to the visionary or the CEO of the company, right? Like what are you leaning into as far as talking to that almost I don't know if you know Don Miller and Story Brand, but like there's the external problem, right? Like, oh my gosh, chaos, right? And then
mhm,
the emotional problem, like the internal problem, which gets to the emotional level, like oh my gosh, I need help. Like this is
yeah,
I'm stressing out over this. And then you got a philosophical problem. But like you speak probably a lot to the internal problem. Like how have you framed that from a
mhm.
all right, I'm clear on who I am as an individual, but when I go and talk to somebody, here's the pain that I'm speaking to.
Yeah. The pain is very, very simple, and I've worked with founders that have $1 million in revenue to I've got, some that I've worked with 250 and $300 million in revenue. It's all about the inflection point in their business. It's not a revenue. It is an inflection point where they get to a point where they realize that they cannot operate and scale anymore without help, and they have
Mm,
to ask for help. But what I found is if it's there's 2 questions I ask. How often is your phone ringing? And it's how often are you answering questions from employees? And then can you take a week of vacation off? And those answers are usually my phone rings off the hook. And no, I can't take a week of vacation off. There's no way I can do it. And these are companies that are running on EOS, but they just haven't built out the structure and accountability to where they can delegate and let go of the vine and let these people make decisions. So there's an empowerment process that I got to take them through to get that founder out of the business the way they're stuck in it right now.
have you found like a niche down as far as an ICP, your ideal client that you want to work with? I mean, is there a I mean, it sounds like EOS, is there a size, an industry? I mean,
Yeah,
are you pretty agnostic as far as that goes? I mean, how did you get
yeah.
clarity on that?
Yeah, I'm very agnostic on the industry. I thought I was going to focus on telecom just because I got a lot of experience there, and I definitely have worked with some MSPs and telecom. So that's I tell people it's easier for me to know which couch cushions to pick up to find the problems in a telecom company because I know where the problems usually
Yeah.
are. But right now I'm working with 2 construction companies and an MSP, so I'm all over the map right now.
Yeah.
But it's that inflection point. It's where that founder has gotten to a point, they've implemented EOS, it's not working right. The level 10s have not gone past the leadership team. Accountability chart hasn't been updated in 3 months, or 9 months, or even a year sometimes. And it's just that inflection point where that founder is drowning. They have figured out finally, and usually it takes a conversation. They have a job. They don't have a business. And if they can't step away from the business and they can't not answer the phone, they have a job. They don't have a business.
When you look back on what made your offer, because I mean, yeah, I mean, you close stuff and we can point to energy that you had the proximity, but I mean, what if you had to like boil it down to something that made it click
Mhm.
so quickly for you? Can you pinpoint kind of what that thing or things were that led you to see the success you had so quickly?
So right out of the gate, I tell these founders I'm working myself out of a job. So the first conversation is, I am not your permanent solution. I am not going to be here forever. And no, I will not work full time because I've had more than a few asked me to go full time, and I'm like, "No, that's not what I do." And I'm out of the gate with everybody, leadership team, owner, founder, whatever, is I'm gonna work myself out of a job. My position is to come in there and build the structure and accountability that you need and find my replacement.
Hmm.
And that has been, it seems to be liberating for them to know
Yeah,
that I'm there for a time, but
right.
not there for an ever. And a lot of consultants, depending on what the consultancy is, they may position themselves for the next thing to have a 10-year relationship, and that's okay, but that's not my model. My model is temporary from the start. Now, my engagements are 6 months. They start out 6 months, but most of them are 9 to 12 months. At least that's the experience I've had so far, because we get into it and there's just so much more to be done. But my offering is to work myself out of a job, find that integrator inside the company that needs to be raised up, or find an integrator outside the company that needs to be brought in, coach them, and then slowly exit out of the business.
I had a conversation with somebody the other day about this, and I'm curious your thoughts on this. Would you say that the integrator role, because the fractional integrator, specifically like isolated fractional integrator that's not, necessarily working in operations, because a lot of times it is that operational
Yeah.
minded person where they're kind of sitting in both seats, right? You have
Yep.
operations and the integrator.
Yeah.
That's very common. I would assume, at least in companies that I've seen.
Yeah.
So would you say the reason there's that the fractional integrator position is so attractive is that it really probably isn't a full-time role for
Hmm.
most companies that are in like the size company and stage of company that most EOS companies are in, that's why it's so attractive?
I think that's a big part of why it's attractive, and, because I've experienced it working full time in 2 different companies as an integrator, and I've had this conversation with a lot of integrators around the country. If you're an integrator full time in a company, I would take a bet that half of the time that you're working for that company is working in 2 seats. Meaning, I was integrator, and then I was also integrator and VP of ops, and then I was just back to integrator, and then I was integrator and VP of finance, and then I was just back to integrator. And so as seats empty, you have to fill those as the integrator. You have to step into that marketing seat, that sales seat, that whatever. And that's actually a part of the challenge that I've seen with full-time integrators is that the visionary wants to save the money,
Yeah.
keep the consistency of the business, and, "Oh, it'll be okay. You just sit in that seat for, 6 months until we find the right person," and then it turns into 9 months before we find the right person.
Mm.
So, I feel like I can be more effective as a fractional integrator because I am focused on being an integrator,
Yes.
and my model is 1 day a week. I'm your integrator 1 day a week, and then I'm gonna come back next week, and I'm gonna be your integrator that 1 day that week. And so it's just I can get more done in 1 day than a full-time integrator can get done
Mm.
in 5 days because
Right.
of the multiple seats.
Yes. No, that makes total sense
Yeah,
because I think that, like, that is why there's been I would say, a rise over the last 5 years, let's say,
yeah.
of more fractional integrators in the space because of, I think, that exact
Mhm.
reason. What would you
Yep,
say separates the good ones from the elite ones, if you had to kinda put something on, record of
yeah,
kinda what differentiates the good ones? Because there are a lot out there, but I would
yeah,
I would consider you, not to just boost your ego, but I would consider you, one of the best. So curious to your thoughts on that.
yeah, so I think the good to great difference is the amount and the ability for that integrator to listen,
Hmm,
comprehend, and execute what needs to be executed. Conversations I've had with a lot of fractional integrators, they'll go in with a sledgehammer, and they're ready to start making change on day one. And I've found that that is not a good way to do that. I get a lot more buy-in and success rate if I will just go in and listen. For like the first month, I don't make a single change. I'm literally just sitting in meetings, meeting with leadership team members, meeting with the visionary, listening and observing, and it's there's so much that I get out of that before I even start adjusting any dials. Um, Again, the ones that I've seen that have not been as good, they go in with a playbook and a plan and start attacking things, and it's like, you gotta give these people time to trust you and understand, and frankly, you don't wanna make changes that you don't necessarily know the cause and effect of. Um, I actually did a post on LinkedIn recently about, going into a company and wanting to change around the warehouse. That was my first inclination, and before I understood how the warehouse was laid out was actually very logical. And if I hadn't listened and paid attention before we started making changes, I would have had to undo things that I had
hmm.
done. So,
On top of the relational aspect
yeah,
of
yeah,
losing trust of like, "What does this
yeah,
guy think he's doing?" Right?
exactly.
So there's a lot of the emotional, relational aspects that I think that probably also plays into the good to the great, if you
Yep,
will.
yeah, I think it does.
So let's switch gears here and let's talk business development. We've kind of already talked a little bit about it, but that seems to be every coach, consultant, advisor, fractional that I've ever talked to. Business development seems to be the number one thing that's on their mind.
Yeah,
So I can't think of anybody better to talk to than someone that, I mean, I had kind of written, I think 6 months is kind of like, it sounds like it was 10 days. So,
It
um,
it was 10 days and I had 3 contracts 1 day a week.
yeah, that's
It
wild.
was that quick.
That
So,
is truly wild. But let's
yeah,
talk, I mean, let's talk a little bit about the business development levers that you always think of them as levers, right? Like I can pull, the community lever, I can pull LinkedIn, I can pull, ads, whatever.
yeah,
Like let's talk a little bit about what your strategy was on that, so we
mhm,
can kind of think, and it can be I know you're a prolific LinkedIn user and
yeah,
also, you know, ultimate founder of energy. So I know
yeah.
those have to be at least two of the levers.
Yeah, those are 2 big levers, just, building communities, I tell people all the time, "Build a community," and if there's not a community, go build one yourself, and it's not complex, meet in a coffee shop, it's really easy, but that's a lever, helping people first and getting referrals that way is a big lever. Asking people for recommendations. I mean, it amazes me sometimes people that, "Well, I don't wanna ask for a recommendation." Well, why not? If you did a good job for them, get a recommendation. Use those recommendations. Use those references. With respect to LinkedIn, I've got a guy, his name's Ben Kaiser, we talked about him earlier, but he is a prolific YouTube star. He's very humble, but he has a very huge following on YouTube. And one of the things he explained to me was you need to have content pillars. And what are your content pillars? And so I spent some time with it. My 3 content pillars are what we're doing right now, being a guest on a podcast, huge pillar. Second content pillar is personalized videos, which I don't do selfie videos because I suck at it. I'm horrible at it. So I get somebody to help me do it. And then the third one is telling stories
Hmm,
and not asking for the sale. So if you look at my LinkedIn, you'll see personalized videos, you'll see me on guest podcast episodes, you'll see me telling stories.
hmm,
And that trifecta is again, I can't explain it, but it just works.
hmm.
When I go up to people, for example, one of the most recent contracts I got, met with a guy, somebody referred me, so that was good. I went and sat down with a guy, never told him what I did, never explained my business, never talked about pricing, never talked about what my process was. He explained his business to me. Okay, talked about all the problems, and then he said, "All right, well, let's go ahead and get started." And I'm like, "Well, we hadn't talked about pricing yet." He was like, "Oh, well, how much do you charge?" And I told him, he's like, "Oh, okay, well, send me a contract." He knew me. He knew who I
Yeah,
was. He knew who I thought. He's watched videos. He's watched
yeah,
podcasts. He's read my mind in the posts. So it's a long game. It's not
yeah.
something you can start tomorrow and get leads the next day. But my LinkedIn is heavily full with people reaching out to me asking me questions because I'm giving free information.
Yes. I think so many, coaches and fractional, all of the above miss that, where LinkedIn doesn't necessarily, it's probably not, especially early on, isn't gonna necessarily net you, like, tons and tons and tons of conversations,
Right.
but what it does is it puts you in a place where you start staying top of mind, right? That
Yes.
to me, I cannot tell you how many people I put up a post. This was my best performing post in 2025. I did a bicycle kick as a 33-year-old,
Yeah.
which I still am hurting from that. But I cannot tell you how many conversations that started of people that were like, "No way, you played soccer? I played
Yeah.
soccer too.
Yeah.
Hey, that was crazy. We should
Yeah.
totally have coffee." Like, it was wild to me how many people, a personal post that had nothing to do with business led
It's be
to staying top of mind.
It's being real
Yes,
and it's being consistent, and that's the magic is to be real and be consistent. You look at all the posts that I do, all the stories that I tell, they're all stories.
right.
Some of those stories go back 10 years to
Yeah.
when I was working full time, and that's another thing I think I don't think I know, I see from talking. Well, I haven't been a coach for very long, I don't have that many stories. Well, go back to when you were working in the
Some of the
warehouse.
best stories.
Like,
Yeah.
go back to when you were working at Popeyes or Popeyes Chicken, McDonald's or whatever, go to somewhere and pull out those things where you solved the problem, and that's the stuff that resonates, and I don't
Yes.
know if you're seeing this, but I can tell you from my, traffic, my written posts get thousands and thousands and thousands of impressions. My video post may get 100, 200,
Yep.
maybe 1,000 impressions,
Yep.
but it's the videos where people would typically reach out to me
Yes.
and say, I saw that video.
Yep.
I want to talk to you now. But they already knew me from the written post.
Right.
So it really, if anybody can figure out their content pillars and then
Yes.
execute over and over and over again, you will be top of mind when they're ready for you.
Right, and a lot of time I love the podcast approach because that's such an underutilized, I think,
Oh
of
gosh, yeah.
oftentimes I mean, this is I mean, I'll give my strategy from this podcast specifically. We will literally cut down snippets and
Yeah.
shorts from this episode, and I send them to Forrest that he
Yep.
can utilize. I do all the work for that, and then
Yep.
send that to him that he can use as content for himself, and a lot of shows are like that because,
Yeah.
number 1, it helps me. If
Yeah.
Forrest posts about
Sure.
my show, it helps me,
Exactly.
but
Yeah.
it also gives him content, and then it just
Yeah.
allows us to raise the brand. So, I mean, it's a win-win for everybody. So a lot of shows are like that, that
Yeah.
give you that content that then gets you that video stuff. Because I think it is a lot of times people are just don't know where to start specifically with
Yeah.
video content. Because it is, I mean, it's a little intimidating, but
Well, and you and I have known each other for a long time, so that's how we connected. But I hired a PR firm
yeah,
to get me on podcasts, and her pitch to me was, "I'll get you on 30 podcasts in 90 days as a guest." And there was a fee involved, obviously, but that fee was ridiculously cheap per episode. And then when you look at the exposure and the content that gets built, and then people are calling me out in California that saw me on a podcast for a local California, studio that had 10,000 subscribers. I'm like, this is crazy, and it's evergreen content. So I'm a big believer in podcasts
yeah.
from a sales biz development standpoint.
And I mean, even from the if you go in I mean, you've got a show too, and we'll link out to that in the show notes, but, like, it goes in it's so easy to get people on a conversation where you just happen to hit record and we talk about our expertise or whatever it is, and
Yeah,
it's such a great business development motion because you're getting your target on there or you're going to somewhere that you're gonna be able to have a conversation, so and
yeah,
it's just you just happen to hit record, so I
yeah,
think it's a great avenue and
yeah,
then obviously compound that with LinkedIn, compound that with the community stuff. Your entire strategy is just staying top of mind and having the cadence to where you're hitting the person that is either in that community thing or is scrolling on LinkedIn and it's like, shoot, I'm dealing with that exact problem that Forrest is talking about. Let me ring him up or let me send him a message to actually pick his brain on this. And that seems to be how it's just netted you 3 clients in 10 days.
I have not cold called one time.
Yeah, that's wild.
I mean, I've done it years ago,
Sure.
but well, since I started this business, I have not cold called one time.
And
I just haven't had to.
that's so powerful.
Yeah.
That is yeah, that is the testament to a personal brand
Hmm.
and consistency in that.
Yeah.
That just screams that to me, and I don't wanna underestimate the community aspect because I think that is
Yeah.
a huge part of
Oh
it.
yeah. Huge. Huge.
What would you say from the energy? Because it sounds like those clients were from energy specifically,
Hmm. They
right?
were. Yeah.
Think about it from the perspective of, hey, like an implementer that's maybe on the fence of, hey, I don't know, like, I don't know about the time commitment. Like,
Yeah.
let's take a professional that's maybe got 4 or 5 clients, right?
Yeah.
They're surviving.
Yeah.
But wanna scale and grow. They didn't get into their EOS practice to have 4 clients, right? So, let's talk to one of those that is maybe on the fence, is maybe I don't know. I don't know if I wanna commit to 12 times a year. I gotta meet with everybody, then I gotta figure out how to go. What would you say to challenge that mindset?
I would challenge it to say I'm a perfect example of what the success can look like when you're in front of people top of mind
Mm,
every month consistently, and you're giving back. I mean, one of the core values of EOS is to abundance mindset. Is that what it is?
yep,
I can't remember.
yep,
Help people. Just help people for free.
yeah,
When you help people for free, I promise you it will come back. It will definitely come back. And the consistency of being in front of people every month and talking through issues and seeing people solve issues and having conversations after the fact. One of the things I've seen regularly, and I've been doing this for over 4 years now with these energy chapters, is I will have a meeting with 15, 20 people in an energy meeting, and then we'll break, and then I'll go to the coffee shop 2 doors down, and 6 of them are in there, and they're separated into twos having meetings. And so it really does create a community conversation where these people are building relationships. And part of what we did when we started Energy, we here's what we decided. We said if we can make businesses more healthy in this area, then there's gonna be better jobs in this area, and there's gonna be a better community in this area. And so, it is an investment in your area to build communities, and if you do that, I hate to be like, Field of Dreams, if you build it, they will come. If you build a community, people will come, and naturally, they're gonna start bringing their friends, and it's going to get word out. And there's so many people that are, that, I've talked to people around the country, and they're like, "Oh, there's nobody that does EOS in my community." I was like, "'Cause you don't have a community yet.
Right.
They're there. They're
Yes,
there.
for
They're just
sure.
not talking about it. There's nobody to
Right.
talk to.
Right.
You gotta find them. But when you find them, they're like cockroaches. They come out of everywhere.
It's
You
so
don't realize
true.
you don't realize how many people are running on EOS.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
We run stuff, Jamie Mullican and Andrew
Yeah.
Geisel and all here in
Yeah.
Greenville. I kid you not, we'll run events here and we'll have like 50, 60 people
Yeah.
coming out the woodwork. Like, I mean, it is wild how many, and Greenville is not a big city,
Right.
but it really does. It goes to show. And I think one of the other benefits that it offers is it also gets it. I mean, yes, the benefit of having it, people in your neck of the woods that are your neighbors that you can start to build relationships with and even almost dictate your supply chain, and
Yeah.
partners on that. But it also connects you to the larger EOS ecosystem, right?
Yeah.
To the partners that are in that, the 90s, the Titus Talents, like all, these providers that are within that space.
Mhm.
And one of my favorite things about the national chapter is it connects me to people where I got on an awesome call the other day with a guy that lived in Kentucky that was in a marketing agency and like was an awesome dude. And we just kicked it off. We just happened to be in that breakout room. And now
Yeah.
we connected on LinkedIn. We're staying in
Yeah.
touch now. And it's connected me to other cool people that are in the EOS
Yeah.
ecosystem, all because it just has built these there's lots of islands out there, right? And the end goal with community is that you start to build bridges between all of those, and you can
Yeah.
have this common thread that we have this orange thread that runs through us that we run on EOS. So that shows me that you're a good human, that you care about growing your business. You're probably a growth minded leader
Mhm.
and you care about your employees and making sure that they are, they benefit from both financially, personally, professionally, all of the things. And so ideally, testable theory that those people probably want to hang out with those people that are like them. And
Mhm.
I think it goes to show all these chapters that are out there, they start to grow like wildfire.
Yeah.
So it's really cool to see the business development benefit that you get out of it.
Like I said, I wish I was a genius and had, developed energy just for business development, but it happened,
Right. Well, I
Yeah.
think that's actually more powerful
Yeah.
that because I think people can see through when
Mhm.
you are kind of utilizing it for a biz dev
Right.
motion. Like it's kind of
Yeah. Yeah.
obvious. So I think leading with the help first and like I truly just want to create this group because I want to be around other people that love and run on EOS.
Yeah.
Then what happened is the business development conversations happened. You didn't lead with that, they just naturally happened,
Right.
and so I think that's what's really cool about it, and that
Yeah.
is I mean, I think you are probably the only one that I know that's got 10 in 10 days, but I also understand and have seen examples of implementers that have gotten clients out of it, right? So, I mean, it's
Mhm.
you are not the isolated, you're not the
Yeah.
anomaly, like, this just
Yeah.
happens because you
Yeah.
create that structure and that environment for it to
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah, and to that point, I only had 2 chapters running here up until January of last year, so there were only 2 chapters running in 2 cities that were sister cities, but I had implementers from 3 and 4 hours away that would come and, present a toolbox topic, and they would pick up clients because people would say, "I wanna go faster. I need to go faster, so here's a way for me to go faster."
Wow.
So, I could give you, Mike Ellicott, Duncan
Yep.
Manley, Lee Hanley, I could name off, a half a dozen implementers that didn't even have a chapter in their area, and they've gone back now and they've started chapters in their areas because they've seen the value of that help first mindset and that abundance mindset.
Thank you for sharing all this and kinda giving us a sneak peek under the hood, if you will, of how you had so much success early on.
Yeah,
But I always like to if you've stuck around long enough and you understand where I'm going with this, but I always like to ask guests because I
yeah,
find this just fascinating.
Yeah.
My curiosity gets the best of me. But if you could go back to rookie Forrest,
Mhm.
just starting out,
Yeah.
you could take it whatever angle you want. If you want to do the fractional, you want to the integrator. I mean, however you want to take it. But if you could go back with all the knowledge and experience that you have now, what
Mhm.
advice would you give yourself?
Hire a coach.
Hmm.
Hire a coach. I still have a coach. I hired an executive coach several years ago, and that has been transformational. And people will say, "Well, why do you hire a coach when you kind of coach people and stuff? Why?" And I'm like, "Well, Tiger Woods had a coach.
Hmm.
I mean, he was the best player in the world, and he hired a coach. And why did he hire a coach? To be able to see things that he couldn't see and observe things that he couldn't comprehend. And I firmly believe now after doing that, and I didn't play sports, so I'm actually at a disadvantage. I didn't play sports in high school or college or nothing, so I didn't even understand what a coach could really do.
Hmm.
But if I could go back, I would say hire a coach. I should have hired a coach earlier. I would be much further along right now, even though I feel like I'm pretty far along if I had hired a coach much earlier.
That's a good word. Brings up JBS, Jonathan B. Smith has this thing. It's like the trifecta, right? I don't know, I can't remember
Hmm.
exactly what he calls it, but he talks about having a business operating system, right?
Hmm.
Every leader should have a business operating system. They
Yep.
should have a peer group, so a
Yep.
community of
Yep.
practice, right? And they should also have a coach.
Yep.
I think that is the trifecta, the
It
triple
is.
threat,
Yeah.
if you will. And so that it
Yeah.
goes to show because you got your community, you got
Yep.
your operating system, and you have a coach. I mean, so you're a walking testament of that. So that's a really good word. I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah.
Second thing I always like to ask is what's a lesson you're in the middle of learning in this current moment?
Mhm. Yeah. I'm learning how to be a visionary. Believe it or not, with the business that I'm in and the business that I'm doing, because I'm developing some products and some, intellectual property and things, and it's not as easy for me to do this, but I'm working through that process to think about how to build things that are in my head, not just help other entrepreneurs, but actually do some entrepreneurial stuff myself. So that's what I'm working on right now.
That's exciting, man. That's fun.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's I'm like a 92% on the visionary thing, so like I just live in that world. But
yeah,
it's yeah, that's good. I think being that well-rounded probably actually makes you a better fractional integrator of kind of
yeah,
understanding being able to tap into both of those energies.
yeah.
Well, let's say someone, wants to pick your brain on something. What's the best place to get in touch with you?
The best place is on LinkedIn. So look me up on LinkedIn. I'm easy to find out there. There's not more than I think there's one other college student named Forrest Derr out in
Nice.
California somewhere. So pretty easy to find out there. I've got a website, derconsulting.com, DERR consulting.com, but either one of those places you can get to me pretty easy and pick my
I
brain.
love it. Yeah, definitely a help first, and we'll link out to all that in the show notes to make
Cool.
it easy for people. But man, Forrest, thank you for coming on and doing this.
Thank you.
Like
It's been fun.
yeah, we've known each other for a while, and it's been fun to watch your growth, and I appreciate your support. You have been a kind, friend, a mentor, kind of when I walked through some things and
Yeah,
even wanted to go into the fractional world myself, you were the first person that I called. And so thank you for your leadership and guidance in my life because I look up to you and I think many people do. So I was excited to have you come onto the show and just have a conversation. So I appreciate you taking the time.
absolutely. I enjoyed it.
Well, cool. Well, thank you all for watching. We will have many more episodes going forward here, but I appreciate Forrest taking the time to come on and talk with us. Take care. That's it for today's episode of the Ambitious Coach Lab. My hope is that something here helps you sharpen your craft and keep building a coaching practice you're proud of. Before we wrap, a quick thank you to our sponsor, 90. If you're coaching leadership teams, having your clients run their entire world in 90 truly elevates your work. Vision, rocks, scorecards, issues, it all lives in one centralized place. The clarity keeps your clients aligned between sessions and makes every conversation you have with them more focused and more impactful. I've used 90 with over 500 leadership teams, and I can tell you it makes great companies better and great coaches even more effective. Feel free to use promo code AC20 for 20% off. Again, that's AC20 for 20% off. Thanks for hanging out with me today. I'm Cam, cheering you on as you grow your ambitious coaching practice. We'll see you next time.